Minecraft updates have been moving in an immersive direction, adding things like the pale gardens, firefly bush with its beautiful particles, and new features like the vibrant visuals. To make the best use of these new features, we can use them to create atmospheric builds. Atmospheric builds can use these new features to make your creations more immersive and realistic. In this guide, I'll go over 5 steps so that you can make your builds more atmospheric, and I'll have an example at the end. Without further ado, let's get started. First up, before you even start building, you want to decide on a theme for your atmosphere. This will determine the overall vibe for your build and guide the later steps. When selecting a theme, it's best to choose 3 words or aspects that you want to focus on. The first word describes how the build is going to look. It includes words like cute, magical, marvelous, evil even. It really describes what you think about the build when you see it. The second word describes the temperature of the build. Warm builds are going to feel more inviting and comforting, whereas cold builds are going to feel harsher and less inviting. And the last word is going to describe how the space feels. This will help determine how you navigate and interact with the space. It could be words like cozy or empty. So that gives us a visual, temperature, and spatial word. But what does that mean? Well, we can use this haunted castle that I have right behind me. I knew I wanted to make a haunted gothic castle, so I selected my 3 words to help make that feel a little bit more atmospheric. My visual word was evil. I wanted this to feel like a villain lives here, or someone with just some evil plans. My temperature word was cold. We want this to feel very uninviting, very harsh. And my spatial word is empty. We go inside and it is just a lot of open spaces, which gives us an empty feeling. Next up, we need to determine the block palette to create our atmospheric build. For this step, we are going to use the visual and temperature words from our theme description. And this is just going to establish the basic look for your build. So while there's no hard and fast rules about what you can use to guide your block palette decisions, there are a couple general guidelines. For selecting blocks based on temperature, a warm style build is going to have a lot more types of wood and brighter colors or softer colors. Think like oak, spruce, or even bamboo. And you can also use some types of stone. I would definitely stick to some of the lighter variants like regular stone, cobblestone, and tough. Cold builds, on the other hand, are probably going to stick with darker colors and use harsher blocks. So think black stone and deep slate, and you can also use what types of wood like dark oak or pale oak. Now, to select some blocks that work for your visual description, that one's tricky. It can widely vary and it really depends what you're actually building. Blocks based on your visual description are often going to be some of the defining blocks of your build. A marvelous build might have some bold colors, whereas a cute build is going to have some soft pastels. Inevitably, you're going to use some types of wood and stone along with probably some other miscellaneous blocks. So to give an example, a magical build uses these sort of blocks. So we have some wood, a little bit of stone or calcite, I guess, and then some glass to create a magical atmosphere. And if we just pop over to the build, we can see the calcite, the different types of wood, and then some of the glass to add the magical aspect. Step 3 is to apply your atmosphere to the structure of your build. And this is where it comes to life. From our theme, we're going to use our spatial and visual words to guide this process. It's important to note that this aspect of atmosphere building is only going to complement our structure. It is not going to change the core idea of it. A castle is going to look like a castle, but we're going to use our structure to make it look evil and empty. To give some examples, the exterior of our castle is going to have a lot of sharp points. So any sort of surface is going to curve up to like a spike in the air. Like obviously we have all of our towers with spikes, but any sort of flat surface like the roof line right here kind of curves up into the spike. And then we're going to also make this shape very imposing. So we have a lot of like parts of the build standing over one another. It's super tall and almost assertive in its nature. And for the interior, it's a very tall space as well and very empty. As for something more cozy like our magical cottage, we focus on creating small spaces and really making those pack a punch. For example, we have this little cover and all these plants in this gardening area, or we use little walls to create separate spaces inside like a dining room or a little reading area. Now, a subsection of the structure is going to be the space. This is going to describe how you interact with, navigate, and see the build. For example, are there going to be long stretches of open hallways or lots of little turns that really make you focus on one section at a time? Unsurprisingly, the cottage is going to break up a lot of lines of sight and how you navigate the build, whereas the castle has long, straight hallways that really give you a sense of how big it is. For the 4th step to make your builds more atmospheric, we can focus on the details. While the details are going to be important to the core idea of your build, they also can enhance the atmosphere in a few ways. This includes things like furniture, props, things on the wall, and other sorts of decorations. When working on the details, we can have different types of furniture that go with our vibe. You can use your theme description words to help guide what colors you choose and what type of furniture you have. It can also guide other details like things on the walls, maybe some fancy blocks. And the magical cottage details include things like these plants right here, which all contribute to this cozy aspect that we have going on. Similarly, our furniture inside is going to help contribute as well, and even things on the shelves or ground can really help sell the vibe that this is a magical cottage. And finally, for our details, we can also think about the lighting. The lighting is going to affect the overall atmosphere of our space. Where it builds on the dim side are really going to put a lot of focus on where the light sources are coming from, whereas well-lit structures are going to illuminate the build as a whole. And the last step, which is kind of optional, is to include accessories. These are meant to be fun, very unique elements that really complement your build. Particles are a nice addition, whether that be the spore blossom, firefly bush, or arrow particles from Good Times with Scar. Animation is also a good option, and it works well with redstone. You can use some lamps and create this nice like swirling effect. And finally, you can also add sounds. You can do some skulk sensors and get a nice rattling sound this way, or do something like music discs. You really just want to get creative with what kind of accessories you add. One of my favorite accessories has been these fireworks for my circus mega base when the sun goes down. Great, so now that we have our 5 steps, let's figure out how to apply them. I am going to create an atmospheric build right on this cliff face, and it is going to be a nice tower. But this is not going to be any tower, it is going to be a fairy tale inspired tower. For our 3 theme words that describe the atmosphere, our visual word is going to be a fairy tale, our temperature word is going to be warm, and our spatial word is going to be elegant. So that's step 1. Let's do step 2. As for block palettes, I think doing some sort of oak would be good. Maybe we could do some calcite as a little bit of highlight, and then I think we can just go with some regular old stone, maybe throw in like a couple mossy variants, just something nice and simple like this. The 3 blocks go well for the fairy tale theme. I mean, a lot of fairy tale is going to have like wood and some stone variants, especially it being a tower. And then temperature wise, these are all very warm blocks. So let's start working on the structure. First, we can create the base of our tower. We're not doing anything too fancy. We just want to give this a solid foundation to sit on. And right now we're focusing on mainly the elegant part of the tower. We can worry about the fairy tale part later on. Okay, so here we are so far. We've only used the blocks in our palettes. I try to implement a nice little curve into the walls of the tower. We have the walls kind of going in and then back out to give this a little bit of a curve, a little bit of elegance. All right, after a lot of messing around, this is what we have for our tower right now. Like I said, I really just focus on making it elegant. We have the wall kind of going in a little bit, and then for the roof, we have a nice curve right here. So it's looking decent, but it's kind of boring. It doesn't really feel fairy tale. So why don't we add some stuff? Maybe this can be like an old fairy tale tower. So I don't know, have like a kind of broken base, maybe some dirtied up walls. We can texture this a little bit, maybe add some greenery kind of hanging from it. Maybe like princess or prince trapped in the tower. Let's try it. We can texture the base, and then we could just texture the tower walls a little bit and this little trim up top. All right, that's the tower textured. So now let's just add some vines to really sell the overgrown fairy tale vibe. Just kind of having fun with these vines. Okay, I'm liking that. We have the vines, we have everything kind of aged a little bit at the base, the roof, and then the walls a little bit. And this is looking really good. Okay, so then we can think about how to navigate this space. I think we're just gonna have a simple like spiral staircase going up, and then maybe, I don't know, a little like room at the top. There we go. We just have a little staircase going up. Okay, so now we can work on the details. I don't want to go too crazy with these. We already have a lot going on and we don't want to overwhelm that, but maybe we can just add some lights here and there. We can just add a little roof to the inside, and then we just create a little bit of an interior. As for outside, maybe we can add some flowers to the vines or just some extra little details here and there. Perfect. We got some flowers and some lanterns just to light up the place a little bit. And lastly, for the accessories, we can add some spore blossoms to add some particles. Whoa, that's a lot of particles. Maybe just one spore blossom. Well, I guess then we're gonna just add some firefly bushes underground just as a little extra detail. And just like that, we have a very atmospheric looking fairy tale tower. I mean, think back to a little bit before this when we didn't have any of the atmosphere going on. I mean, we didn't have the fairy tale vibe, we didn't have the rundown aspects. It was just a boring tower, and now this thing feels so much more alive and atmospheric. And with our tower done, that is how you make your build more atmospheric. Let me know what you think and what you decide to make with this guide. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.